Hiya, this is Kittenfeatures, and you're listening to ShowX Live with Ken in a student accommodation all the way in Scotland. Wait, that was years ago. You're listening to ShowX Live with your favorite Scotsman Ken, currently residing in the US of A, and Wayne, mostly from Colorado, but spending way too much time in the Howling Abyss instead of Summoner's Rift. Enjoy the show!
Hey everybody, and welcome to the show. Haha, it worked. I actually wasn't sure what would happen there since I was having all kinds of random hiccups this morning. But good to see. Also, so as we were doing new things and pieces and stuff, throwing out there that I also was playing the pre-show music using an app/solution called Pretzel, the Pretzel Station, that is supposed to acquire some, stream-friendly music. So that's what you were listening to in the pre-show, and hopefully that was coming through okay. But with that, we'll go ahead and get started. It is 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on this Sunday, the 12th of April, 2020, already about halfway, or at least 2 weeks into this month's quarantine. So welcome everybody to the show. We got Ken on as always. How you doing today, sir?
Hello, and thank you everybody for listening in. I wanted to start off the show. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for hosting as always, sir. Very much appreciate it. But also, we've got a bunch of more those free Steam keys to throw out.
Yeah, we do have some more to put out today. We need to. We both, I think, acquired some things.
So I filled out our little note section with a bunch of keys there, as you can see, and I actually know what games they are. They're not just some random crap. There are actually some pretty good games in there. These are ones that I already owned from a pack that I purchased last week. So these are games that we can give away completely for free. They're pretty good games, including Hollow Knight, The Witness, Killing Floor 2, Darksiders 2, Darksiders 1, Brothers Two Tale, which by the way is fantastic, Worms Revolution, Magicka, always a good game, and World of Goo, also a great game. So every one of those games I've personally played and thoroughly enjoyed, apart from Hollow Knight, which kept breaking for me. But I do already own it. So we're going to hand out some of those keys. We'll probably, do you want to just do the normal Twitter thing, sir? Do you want to just do it that way? I think that's a good easy way of getting some advertisement.
We can do it on Twitter. Like I said, it's one of those things, hard to say where we get the most people watching, listening in, or paying attention to what we're doing.
Or what we could do, actually, I have an ingenious way of doing it. Ooh. Whenever we get a new follower, we will drop a key into the chat. That way it's not a passive retweet and people will ignore it. You have to get somebody to come in and click follow, and then we'll drop one of those keys in the chat. How about that?
That would be an interesting way to do.
Yeah, that could be fun. Also, I might not notice. So, like, people that we trust in the chat, Hando, Tom Bad Guy, whoever else is in there, let us know there's a new follower if we miss it, so that we don't just, like, never drop any keys.
Fair.
Right?
I will try to pay attention here. Keep track of it.
Yeah. Okay, so that sounds like fun.
Yeah, we can do that. And it's, as Tom Bad Guy is saying in the chat, saying, there's only one game that matters right now. And I think... yeah, I could see that. I could see there's only one game right now. Which one is that?
Doom, right?
Well, so Doom Eternal is, supposedly doing really well. I'll give credit. In fact, that's one of the things I 3D printed that I didn't bring up here. Shucks. I got a model for the Doom little collectible guys you get in game. They have the little ones there that you can pick up. And from that, I printed a model that someone had posted of that I'm actually pretty happy how it came out. I meant to have that up here so I could say, like, see, I got one of the Doom guy collectibles. So I was actually leaning towards that with Animal Crossing, Tom, thinking that might be the case. But, being all PCMR here, for me, it's still got to be League of Legends and ARAMs. Or I guess you could say Half-Life Alyx, although I still haven't finished that one. So I think those are all valid.
I was going to jokingly say Rift, because remember that when we all thought that MMO was going to be like the WoW killer? Like, when did it come out? 2011?
It's funny because I have never run into an MMO that I thought was going to be a quote WoW killer, but that's also because I'm not a big fan of MMOs, and so I keep running into them. Like, their
time. I feel like now is a good time for them, mind you. I mean, like, how many other times have we had this much, free time
to dedicate towards some specific activity, whatever that might be. And yeah, right. it's one where, in my household, what I have available to play. Actually, it's been a lot of Modern Warfare, the new Warzone mode, the Battle Royale in Call of Duty, because that's free to play and it's on the console and PC. So I figured that one's what a lot of people must be playing.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about that actually. I've had, but again, I don't really want to support that kind of game right now. I say as I'm currently going through a Fortnite binge.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll be curious here. Anyhow, we're going to talk about a little bit of things that currently are running around as
Dysfunctional Deviations.
Because I've only got a little bit to kick in this week. It's funny. We Ken and I, before the show started, were talking a bit about how being in your house so much, it can sometimes feel like with all the time you've spent throughout the week, it's hard to track what all you actually did. And therefore, It may be like for us, as we're trying to do retrospect of our week before the show, we both ran into a moment of struggling to figure out, but what did I do this week? I know I was in my house.
Where are the lines that define the week? Because it's all the days have been blurring together. I have a vague understanding of work days and not work days. But even then, I often work at the weekends, and I often choose not to work on weekdays because I know I worked at the weekend. So they all just sort of blend, and it's hard to. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I remember, I think it was Handos asked me, so how long have you been quarantined for? And I was like, I have no idea. I have no idea. Like, a month, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? I really don't. And at this stage, I really don't know. I think it's 4 to 5 weeks now that me and my wife have been in quarantine. But yeah, you really do lose track of the days, and they all blend together. And you don't know what you do to spend the time. You just end up doing stuff.
Well, and I will say that I highly recommend to everybody to take the time you can to keep some kind of schedule, to make sure you get up and get dressed each day. Don't just lounge around in your pajamas or a robe or something like that. One of the things I think that has helped me to continue to pass through the days and make sure I'm being a little more productive is getting dressed. I'm actually still waking up during the week on my normal schedule where my alarm goes off at 5 a.m. and gets me up. I may snooze once or twice, but I'm still usually up and active before 6 a.m. and start running around through the day. That's been a piece. It's still hard in my case because I haven't been able to maintain all of my schedule that I would like to. I have been more active in general. Hopefully you guys have seen some of our silliness on the Discord channel for Fitness Per Day that we've been doing little bits here and there. I think I shared some push-ups and such. I know Campo was having fun with it by showing various lifts he was doing with alcoholic containers around his house. Those were entertaining to see. And so have definitely been doing that. I've tried, and for me especially, it's been trying to get outdoors at least once a day, every day, and not just to go do the random or like the little things I have to do, but to get out there and just go for a walk. Or for me, I've been trying to go for jogs and runs a bit. I was proud of myself in my workout regiment this week because went for my normal Wednesday run, although this time went down and went the other half, went down to a park downtown to do the run, which was interesting because Colorado, we're filled with a lot of people who like to be very active. And so we have tons of parks and bike trails and things around that you can go partake of, and a lot of people do. One of the challenges I've had, my neighborhood's easy, but when I went downtown to go run with my running partner, it was having to keep the social distancing in a park that's more active and filled. And so we did the loop, and we always kept where the two of us, because we've maintained contact, we're running together, but we did the whole thing where we were vectoring around people on the trails, or if there was a bunch of people going off the trail into the grass, and trying to keep at minimum, if not more than that 6 foot kind of recommendation.
Well, the 6 foot are very much a minimum because there was a study last week that showed that the virus can spread by going 6 foot into the air and then misting. So it can land way further than just 6 foot. So what you really want to do is, we try to keep like at least 10, 15 meters away from people. Like it looks ridiculous, and often we have to veer way off a path to do it. But I don't know how else to avoid people, especially in these busy places like you're mentioning. When you go down to a local park or a busy street, you have to avoid people one way or another. We're always wearing our masks, but still, it's not. We still don't really feel like it's good enough, you know.
No, well, and the masks and what most of us have are a preventative measure. I will continue to comment that the whole point of how you will most likely catch the virus is something getting into your wet areas, right, into your nose, your mouth, your eyes, that kind of situation. And so there is the issue of particulates from people breathing out and if they cough, sneeze, those kind of things. But the more common way people are likely picking it up is exposure through touching things that also have been touched, and then touching their face, mouth, things like that, which is what those recommendations about not touching your face are all about. And the washing of your hands and things like that to prevent from, once you've washed your hands, if you then touch yourself, not passing things on. It'll be interesting, you know, how well we can all manage as we continue to go forward. When I was running, we went around. I think we did a really good job. There were a few moments where we had to spend a few steps extra getting further off the path to avoid. Mm-hmm. It's interesting seeing how there's some groups and people out there who still aren't really respecting the idea of it, of keeping distances, or they're still in some larger groups and such like that than would otherwise be expected. But for the most part, I've been able to get out and still be active. And around my neighborhood, it's a lot easier because we have the trails and such, and there's just not enough people to make it dense. It's not a meeting place for people. It's more just around the neighborhood. But I have seen a lot of people out. And I'm fortunate because when I've gone running recently, I will finally give credit to whoever the city planners who've done this in my neighborhood, because I was bitching as a car driver prior, is they reduced the lanes through my neighborhood from being 2 per direction down to 1 per direction, and made these massive, the additional part of the pavement for a bike lane and additional shoulder. You can, in most places, in fact, park on the shoulder and still have the bike lane there. And as a normal driver in the neighborhood, it annoyed the crap out of me. But now that I'm running it through it, it was nice because to avoid a lot of people walking the sidewalk, I was just running in the bike lane, essentially. And that's been convenient. Not only have I done that, I also just the other day, because it was really pleasant out this week, up into the 70s, I think, yesterday, is I went inline skating, actually, which I hadn't broken out those bad boys for, gosh, more than a year at least. But it was a way for me to get out there. Oh, so we have someone who says they're now stalking us and therefore has followed us. And so it's opportunity for Ken, if you would be so kind as to drop a key.
Sure. I'll drop a random one. In fact, the one I was splurging about most. This is Brothers Two Tail. There it is in the chat. Do enjoy.
And so whoever grabs that Steam key first, you will get a free game from here on ShowX. So enjoy. It's one of those that if you've been a long-time listener, it's up to you if you want, but we definitely are trying to encourage others to jump in. So yeah, I got to.
But also, yeah, if you brought in somebody, you've earned that key as well, right? It's not just a new person. You actually brought in somebody, so you know whoever gets it in the end is welcome to it.
But please, somebody get them. I'm a little concerned that some of our community might be too kind, and in doing so, there have been keys pushed to the ether that nobody may have ever claimed, and so I
have double checked them in the past. I have done that.
So hopefully, people are all claiming them. But yeah, no, I got to go inline skating. I was explaining to one of my friends that I tend to do these activities that are slightly off the norm, meaning like when I go skiing, I do those short blade type skis that are very similar to my inline skates. And when I go skating, I have two kinds, which are trail ones, as I call them, the ones that have larger wheels and are meant to kind of go for distance, cross country type thing. And then my skate park ones that have the smaller wheels and grind paths and such that I can actually go do tricks on parts of the of a skate park if I go. And so I put on my trail skates and went running or blading around on them. I was trying to maintain a level of how active can I be, because I actually went for a run Wednesday and then a run Thursday, and within those 2 days did 5 miles. And then on, was it Friday or Saturday? I think it might have been Saturday. I did my inline skating where I went, 5 miles on my inline skates? Because I wanted to make sure I at least kept the same amount of time that I'm going out there for over a half hour to be active, to get up outside, see the sun. I got some, a little bit of the good kind of radiation on my skin and hopefully some better vitamin D production. But I think all of that is very important when we're stuck mostly in our residence all this time. If you can get outside and do something,
super
do it.
important.
So
super important.
Highly recommend. Let's see, what else have I been doing? Also, as we were talking about, one thing's to be active. Another one is to definitely stay in touch with people. I know that I've seen a few people chat about how are you socially distancing or stuck in your home away from others? Because a lot of people, a lot of single folk and stuff, you're social distancing in such a way where, because the recommendation from governments is to only interact with those in your household, is like, well, I have 2 cats in my household, not people. I have one person that I've broken that with, but we're being consistent about that and thus still minimizing exposure. And beyond that, though, I highly recommend, and we've said it before, using technology. I've had the opportunity a couple times this last week to continue to use some of these group chat meeting applications, as well as to recommend. There are ones available that aren't, risky, like the Chinese Zoom that I keep using, but the ones like built into Facebook, their chat, if you have it, Skype has it. I think even just most of the regular phone chat tools now have the ability to do group video chats and things like that. So there's lots of ways to get out there and do that. So for me, it's been Zoom. Met up on Friday again with my drinking crew that kind of got together, and it's been interesting. Every week there's been different people on. So that's been fun to kind of just hang out. I don't think I was actually really drinking much during it this time, so much as I was working on my 3D printers, which I'll get into in the Geek Cred piece, but it still gave me an outlet to see other people, hear stories from people. In general, just chat and talk and get some of that social interaction that I know I crave and haven't gotten nearly enough of. Because it's one thing for me to just do messaging on a device and just get text messages, but I like to see people's faces, and actually have some of that kind of interaction of, so far my scheduled one is between Ken and I here on the show, where we get to actually talk to each other for a couple hours and like, yay, socialization, people. And so I've been doing that. The other ones I had, though, was my family did another one on Saturday, where we all got together yesterday, that my mother has set up, and we've done it 2 weeks in a row now. Getting together, chatting, getting to see my nephews and nieces, which is great, as well as my siblings and my parents, and just kind of catching up. I will admit, though, that it was interesting because I have different outlets of groups that I hang out with, and in doing so, I have different levels of interaction I will do with each group.
Of course,
and it's much like how I feel like I maintain a certain discretion on the show, that I share a lot, but not necessarily everything, nor as emphatically as I feel it. And I found myself on my Zoom call with the family, a comment came up or question that was mentioned that kind of got me going. If I were to use the terminology right or wrong, I don't know how I like it, but triggered almost in a way. What I found out is that we were discussing some of the interaction reaction of government entities during these situations. And
yeah, that would trigger me too. I would. I tend to go on a very rage-induced chatter about that kind of thing quickly when people mention that sort of thing.
Normally, I think I do a fairly good job of keeping myself in my, call it PC or whatever you want, but a way of interacting with people that is meant to be more thought-inducing and less emotion-inducing. Like I don't want people to react primarily off of emotion. I want them to think through situations. But with my family, when it came up, I will admit that a bit of the emotion came out, and I had some, like I was speaking and felt myself get flushed almost as I was getting charged up with what I was saying and how I was reacting to some recent news. And it's interesting because like my nephews were on, and older nephews, graduating high school, younger nephews just a few years difference. But even then, I was, and plus parents on, I had to really still try to check myself to not openly just start like cursing and yelling.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You can talk about government stuff. Obviously, I think it's good for them to hear that, if anything.
Oh,
But
but I
yeah,
mean, yeah, the discussion.
Check.
But I realized because I was becoming so emphatic that
Yes.
my natural inclination was to emphasize the points I was making through stronger language. And that was a bit tough. That I was like, I feel this way, but maybe I shouldn't express it like that. And I was mostly successful. I think I had a few things drop that weren't true like curses, but were stronger words than I intended to use amongst my family. But I was kind of surprised because what it highlighted to me is that I maybe need to use those outlets more or find someone who's willing to have those strong discussions with me. Because
if only you had a weekly show where we could, let off steam and talk about whatever we feel like unimpeded.
Yeah, we stopped doing your opinion is wrong. If we were to bring that up again, maybe, which since you're now in the same time bracket, that might be a thing. I have thought about that a few times because this show I would like to keep more frivolous, fun, and talking about things that we witness in lives and stuff like that. I am happy to have those discussions. At the same time, my fear is a little bit that I know in having such divided political views being thrown around, some people may not be willing to forgive other people's opinions, unfortunately. That when people disagree, instead of them accepting that someone has a different opinion and just moving beyond that, they shut that off because they don't want to hear those things. And so I do fear about alienating audience.
Political opinions are often separate from a person's personality, but not always, not entirely, right? I mean, I have people who are Republicans who are friends, and that's fine because I think it'd be mad not to just have a rule that was like, oh, if you disagree with me, I hate you. I think that's dumb. But if I'm not friends with, for example, Nazis.
Well,
right?
that likely you are aware of.
Doesn't mean you can't be friends. Of course it does. In some instances, of course it does. I don't think anybody would really, once you actually think that thoroughly through, you're like, oh wait, actually, it makes sense to not be friends with people because their political views, if their political views are nuts, right? There's a lot of Republican people that I'm friends with who genuinely just believe that capitalism will actually solve the problems, and they still care about the poor, and they still care about everybody having accessible healthcare and stuff. They just have a different viewpoint on how it can be solved. And that's an acceptable viewpoint, and I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah,
right?
I'm totally okay with the philosophies.
A lot of Republicans, because a lot of Republicans, I've realized, they still care. They're not some robots that they're like, oh, we only care about ourselves or whatever. Like a lot of Democrats would try to paint them as. They're not.
Well, just like not every Democrat is completely socialist and wanting to give up their wealth or their funds to save the world and everyone else. It's it goes back to, it's also the level of, I have difficulty categorizing anybody as strictly Republican or Democrat or conservative, liberal, or whatever party there exists out there in the world where you're at, because I think everybody's opinions really do change depending on the specific issue. And so I think it's such a cop-out in discussions for anybody to label somebody as a group, at which point they can say, oh, you must be this, and therefore I can assume all these things about you, all these opinions. And I try my best not to do that. Anyhow, but I did find myself getting emphatic and just on my own level of rant. I was a little surprised at myself because it was my parents in there and siblings and such. But it was more just that I realized because of the subject matter, I've been following a lot of things, watching a lot of things, a lot of these opinions I've had, I guess, pent up because I try my best not to let them out on social media and such, or because again, I want people to, instead of yell at each other, I want people to have good, intelligent conversations with each other.
Yeah.
And so when I do find things that make me feel pretty strong about it, I don't attack. I instead analyze what's been said and try to put something out there that will cause people on both sides to have a more thoughtful conversation. That's my goal.
So there's actually, I've been experiencing that not with friends and family, but on Reddit, there's a subreddit called Ask a Trump Supporter.
Okay.
And it's really fascinating. I haven't taken part whatsoever because my account on Reddit is Ken Reed. It's a named account. I will not, so I don't do anything controversial on it, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I do follow a lot of interesting stuff, and I follow the Ask a Trump Supporter subreddit, and it's quite interesting because some of the times, like somebody will ask a question that's like, Trump said this, like right now, the medical advice that Trump's been giving, right? Like what drugs doctors should be giving. And it was quite fascinating actually, because I was like, okay, how are they possibly going to defend this one? And I found that most of the Trump supporters said, yeah, I wouldn't take any medical advice from Trump. He's a politician. Why would you like we can support him as a politician, but not we still think he's an idiot for for saying that. And I was like, wow, that's actually really refreshing to hear, because you assume that any Trump supporter is going to try and defend anything but you remember, oh wait, everybody's multifaceted. They're not just a single camp that all are, homogenous with their beliefs. They actually do have disparaging beliefs in some respects, and in one of them, they don't take medical advice from those who are not practicing doctors, right? Which is understandable and completely legitimate and sensible.
I would absolutely say that if you're going to pay attention to any of the things being pushed out by the administration, especially for medical stuff, focus on what the doctors representing the administration are saying, not the salesmen of the administration who are pushing politics. Focus on the good information. And that's one of the challenges. And I will not get into the political discussion here because, like I said, this is not where I want that to live on this show. No. We can do another show for that if people want those aspects of Ken and I, because I know Ken and I both have opinions. Man, do we. We have some thoughts. But along with that, it was just interesting. I need to figure out that outlet for me, because I think it's also very emotionally powerful, and when we try to do self-care and things, to allow yourself to voice the things and feelings that you have and not just hold them in. And I think that's a valuable thing. So I'm going to try myself to practice that more, and I may have to reach out to specific people to see if they're willing to help me with that. Because I've tried to guard those kind of things from friends around me. I try not to leverage my opinions on a lot of people around me, because I'm very much in that libertarian feel of like, my house, my rules, my thing's all good, and I don't want to destroy others. And so I will challenge, and if people want those discussions, I'm happy to have them. But I usually don't go into something saying like, oh, I'm about to cause some ruckus. Y'all, let's go. And so I'm trying to be good. But that was an interesting realization of mine over these discussions. The last Zoom thing I did, is at least I tried to, is my buddy Scotty B again, out of Florida, was doing his DJ set, as he's been doing every Saturday, and this one was very electro fun dance. So we were trying to work it out throughout the week, him and I, although unfortunately for you to broadcast Zoom meetings to social media, to Facebook, you have to have a paid account, and we were trying to figure out free, so I hosted along with his thing a Zoom dance party. And I was in my living room on that computer with the camera set up and dancing along to his stream. Unfortunately, only people in there were myself and Earthweaver. I appreciate my brother coming in to at least make me understand how it worked hosting a meeting, but I don't think anyone else really picked up on it. And granted, I didn't give it a whole lot of preemption. But for me, it was fun. I got up and did some dancing and moving yesterday as well, and would love to know if others are interested in something like that. I mean, I'm used to dancing by myself, and so just out there like, hey, but I was absolutely hoping to grab more people in there to celebrate Scott's sharing of his DJing and mixing. I need to get his link. He has a link for all the mixes he's been doing if people want to grab them for themselves. So I should throw that out there if I can find it. So that was me doing that. I've talked about the keeping fit. And the only other thing I was going to say, one of the other challenges, kind of, Ken, how we've been doing whatever we can to keep ourselves busy around the house, working where people can work, interacting where you can, is I have had lots of little projects around my house that I've been doing. Some have been successful and good. I've been trying and more active with my 3D printing, which has been a good time. And in doing so, started out trying to help support medical workers by doing the headband prints so that they could do face shields. Unfortunately, in doing so, I broke one of my printers. And so I'm waiting for them to get a part before I can get it up and going. And the other side, though, I also recently got a query from my sister who's nursing for any of the... She sent me basically a picture of a 3D printed object saying, hey, can you make these? And it was for people who are having to wear the regular face mask filters. They normally go around your ears. The challenge is people who have to wear those all day, that gets
They
very
get hurt,
fatiguing, and it can cause pain. It can cause all kinds of things, and so thankfully,
as somebody who's a bigger dude with a big face and a big head, I can say that the face masks we've been using are standard size, whatever that means. And yeah, my ears are like this when I'm walking about outside because my ears get pulled down because my face is just too big for the normal face masks. So not only do I have this dumb face mask on, but I have like very curious looking childlike ears.
Nice.
So I get it, and that's that. And I struggle for half an hour. I can only imagine what it'd be like to do that all day.
So she requested from me to print some of these multi-width plastic bands that are flexible and such that you can, instead of clipping behind your ear, you clip to this band behind your head, and it distributes the weight of it across your whole head. And so I took the model and printed her out a set of 30 of them. She had asked for like 24, because she had asked, can you print some for me? I was like, sure. And I asked her, well, how many people in your hospital or around you do you think would want these? And she was like, maybe 20. So I shipped to her on Friday or yesterday, I forget when I got out of the house with that, like 30 of them that I printed up in a couple days real quick. I was able to get them on my print bed on one of the printers, like 7 at a time, printed a bunch, as well as myself. I printed one, and I took my, it's an opportunity for me to also keep applying the skills I have. I found some of the patterns that people have been using online to actually sew their own face masks. Some of their own fabric ones you can wash. And so I also took that up and sewed a couple for myself and the friend I keep interacting with. And so together I did a couple of face masks as well. But I've checked those out, and while the challenge, one of the biggest things, and I think this is across the board for all these home created things that people are doing, is I don't have any elastic, like traditional elastic to put as a nice band behind. So my solution for my face mask was to grab a set of hair ties and like loop them together such that I could get a little loop of hair ties with their elastic. And then I've been using those looped onto the little headband thing I was printing. And so, which is nice because I too am wearing my headband whenever, or my face mask whenever I'm out in public.
Good for you.
And I may sew some more, we'll see. But it's also been something I've seen around the cosplay community and stuff that a lot of people have been doing those kind of things. All the creators and makers I know. Because the non-3D printed version of those back things is do a piece of fabric with buttons on the end. And you can use those as a really simple way to make a comfortable holder for us. Oh. Hey, another one has followed us. Yep. So we're going to, time to drop another key. So,
this is Killing Floor 2. Steam key, please do enjoy in the chat. First to grab it gets it. Also, shout out to Mika Sorona, who said, I wore my mask 2 days in a row, and the second day my ears were hurting. I'm getting ready to make the straps ribbons and buttons for my mask as well. My mum just bought me a bundle of is it half an inch or 1 to 2 inch? I'm not sure.
Half an inch. That's 1/2 inch.
Okay, half an inch elastic if you want it, and a crap ton of bias tape to make tieable straps. So
the nice thing is, Mika, I do actually have a bunch of bias tape on my prototype one because I had made a bunch of bias tape when I did my clown costume. And so I learned how to make my own. And it has just a little bit of elasticity to it, but not enough to actually hold around your ears. But it's great for, like she said, tying. So I do have bias tape. The elastic, I was looking at some other options. I actually tried to repurpose a bungee cord and rip it open, but the elastic in it was old. It fell apart. It was not good. But that's been one of the challenges. So those of one of the projects I've been doing that's been successful around my house and good, as well as I am mostly done. Although this is kind of on the mix. I guess I was talking about a little ahead of time with 3D printing. Screw it. I will keep talking about 3D printing. Is that I've also been working on my own personal like full face shield / mask. Now, admittedly, this is not my model. And I had a printer hiccup that I still don't know what the heck happened, but one of the fans was off of the printer when I got up today, which is unfortunate. So the print didn't finish, and I have the finished part of it printing now. But my goal is for when I have to go out in public and I want to have a full face mask, is to wear this. And that way I can have my Borderlands Psycho face mask, because it actually does have an insert for it for a filter. And
that's cool.
I plan to...
And it scares the crap out of everybody you come across, too.
Well, my goal is to actually finish this one and paint it properly to be a true Psycho mask. Once I put the additional pieces on it. And it has, like I said, an insert to hold reusable filters in it, and it's almost a perfect size for if you needed one of the substitutes people have been doing, pads you'd use for like cotton pads that you would use for applying makeup or things like that. Stuffing a few in there for that is a makeshift. And I also have to figure out a way to put a little bit of a interface or lining around the edge to help seal it, some kind of rubber or something like that. And so, but I'm really happy with how this has come out so far, and that it fits my face pretty well. And I plan on doing something for the eyepieces to make it a fully sealed mask, but that should be fun. That's one of the 3D print projects I'm working on as well. So looking forward to finishing that one. Let's see. So those were some of the big projects that have been going well. I say that specifically because I have a couple projects that unfortunately have stalled. And should I say the other ones? Did I talk before about me hanging stuff and organizing? Because I talked about putting shelves in my garage and like downstairs before I'm getting some stuff organized there. The other one I did is I printed off, there were some cool designs of hangers for people who do winter activities, skis and snowboards and such.
But before you jump on that, there's another side note about the previous topic with the face masks. Legend Tinker said, on a side note, I'll bet police, security personnel, etc. are hating the fact that everyone in the world is now encouraged to wear masks in public, which is actually completely true. I saw a funny post on Reddit the other day with this guy who had this ridiculous face mask with a huge mustache and beard, and it just looked like I don't know, like bad guy from 1920s TV kind of look, right?
Yeah.
And he went to a bank, and the bank said to him like, "Oh, you can't wear that in here. We need to see your face." So he takes it off, and it's exactly the same underneath. He's actually got that mustache and the silly beard, and apparently it made them all the bank staff giggle, which
that's
I thought
hilarious.
Was quite good.
Well, and along those lines, I will say one of the challenges, and this is, I've been watching it. I'm very fortunate where I live specifically and where I have gone to interact. I have not suffered anything like this, but anecdotally through other people and through videos I've seen, one of the challenges has been that the desire for people to wear masks is not being universally accepted. And unfortunately, there have been anecdotal reports of people of color being commented very negatively on for wearing masks as though they are criminals and such. And in fact, there was a stream I saw of a guy he was blogging it as he was having to react, being walked out of a store by a police officer because he had been wearing a mask. And this was in a chain, a big, like basically a Walmart of all places, where he was like, what the absolute heck are you talking about? And it was a police officer saying, we do not want you wearing this mask. And he could not, of course, get a logical response as to why. And instead of him just, taking off, he's like, I am actively doing what the administration has told us to do.
Yeah, like
what the absolute hell.
Said that, right? My God, I hope he should have just taken off his mask and just started coughing everywhere, right? No, not really. That would be a terrorist.
Well, and the problem was he did take it off as he was doing the things. Like, I've taken off, and they still forced him to leave the store, and that just like gets me on levels that, thank goodness, I don't normally have to deal with in my everyday life.
Well, that's the thing. He clearly wasn't white enough to be wearing a mask. You need to be a certain level of whiteness to be allowed to. Like, I've been getting strange looks. And I've had people comment and say things. Both me and Kittenfeatures have experienced this, actually. We walk around the street, and people. I put a post on Twitter about it the other day, and people have been making comments like, "Oh, well, they clearly have corona," and stuff like this. And then like
not understanding the whole process, right? And hey, as we talk about this, holy cow, you guys are being prolific. We just got another follow. This one coming. Yep, another one. Salem has just followed us. So Ken has just posted into the chat another key for this one. It's Hollow Knight, which is actually a really good game.
Yeah, apparently it's one of the best games of all time. Apparently, so
yeah, I
enjoy that.
I need to get into it at some point myself. I just have not spent that time. But no,
yeah, considering that I'm like the whitest dude you'll ever meet. Like I fade into cream walls. Like
oh no, we see it every week on the stream. As soon as you move outside of your background of the noise panels you have, you start to disappear into the wall.
Exactly. And if I'm getting like very minor harassment as a white dude, I can only imagine what it's like for anybody who's not white.
Yeah, well, and like I said, I've been fortunate because I haven't seen or experienced myself anything. But I did see when I went out, because I went to pick up supplies from Sam's Club yesterday for shopping stuff, because I looked and fridge was getting empty, as well as I actually came back with a thing of toilet paper. It was surprising. There wasn't a lot on the shelves, but they did have some, and I was surprised too because
I've not been able to find any yet.
Well, and I was surprised too because I went to Sam's Club on a Saturday and it was empty. So my feeling is that that most people must have done their binging prior and now are still living off of that, and people aren't having to shop as often, which is good. But I was able to go get everything I needed there, and it was surprising how few people there were out, and the percentage of people wearing masks, where I would say the majority of people I saw were wearing masks, which is really cool. Because that is currently a new norm. And another discussion point that came off of that was an interesting one. This is actually one of the discussion points I was going to have in general. Hey, why not? For everyone out there, one of the thoughts that my family, we were having this conversation yesterday, is so many things have changed in how we do things every day right now. And a lot of times we know we are not at a normal right now. This is still a reactive situation because people aren't working in their normal jobs like they should, and people aren't traveling like they should to do normal everyday events. But once things get to whatever normal is going to be in the future, what, everyone, are your thoughts on the things that we are learning today about how the world can work to what we expect it to become once we go back to most of these restrictions going away? What will that new norm be? Are there any things we're seeing today that we hope will actually continue into a new future, a new norm? Or are there some things, or because I feel like we are going to rubber band, there's going to be a lot of people who just want to go back to the way things were, but should we? Is kind of a question. And
so, to the extent we should be going back to the way it was, because I think human touch is important for our psychology. I think our social existence is kind of based on the premise of touching each other once in a while, be that sexually or otherwise.
Let's say not just touching ourselves, be it sexually or otherwise. No,
don't just touch yourself, because that's how you get coronavirus. That's like we said earlier. If you're touching yourself, especially your face, will get you coronavirus. There's Worms Revolution in the chat for our new follower.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for another follow. Man, we're going to give out all the keys today.
I think I think we will. So I think in terms of remote working, that's going to be an extremely common thing now. Like, it was already becoming more common, but this is going to make this like the new norm. I think a lot of businesses will eventually realize, hey, why are we paying for all this office space, all this electricity, and all these utilities, and so on, insurance and whatever else, when we can just have our employees work from home, maybe give them a stipend for like a new desk once in a while, or an ergonomic chair. I mean, it'd be way cheaper than renting out an entire space. And clearly, as we were seeing, work goes on. People aren't just not working anymore.
No, a lot of work is still being done.
Yeah. That's a very specific, that's kind of more IT side, I guess, admin and stuff, office workers. But I think in terms of day-to-day stuff, I still think, concerts will happen. I still think people will gather in large groups. I still think they'll be super close to each other. But
absolutely.
I think those will be the few occasions where we are that close now.
Well, and we are still communal. Humanity tends to be regardless. So I don't think we're going to completely sign off on things. But it was kind of like even how in the administration in the U.S., Dr. Fauci, the main medical voice there, recommended or made a comment recently. They said he doesn't believe we should ever go back to handshakes as being our normal greeting.
Yep.
The physical contact with strangers than people that were not normally around as being common. And so,
let's bow, guys. Bowing is just so cool. It's just such a great sign of respect.
Ken, this is the opportunity, Ken. Ken, this is the opportunity. I am in heavy support of Wakanda forever. And
no, let's bow. Bowing's neat. I like bowing. I think that the Chinese have got it right.
So my challenge with bowing is whenever I've seen it in cultures in Japan when I was there and just witnessing it around, is I feel like bowing can get out of hand. That you get people who bow and then to start something, they bow to finish something, they bow to acknowledge something in the middle, and it becomes this like constant set of people bowing to each other, and you're kind of like, when do we stop? Maybe that's just my lack of understanding.
Well, we do the same thing with handshakes, though. I mean, you walk into like sometimes
no,
you're meeting
creepy people do that with handshakes.
A group of 10. Okay, say it's a professional group, like 10 people sitting around a table for a meeting or something, and a new person who works in the office, a new lady joins or something, and she walks in and says, "Nice to meet everybody." What will happen is every single person will lean forward and shake their hand and be like, hi, name,
through
name,
the whole,
name.
Yep.
And that's mad. Like, I think really there are more efficient ways of doing it. And
like I said, Wakanda forever.
For everybody.
Not Wakanda forever, because everybody can come up and be like, Wakanda. And you just move on. It's awesome. Simple. Everyone can do it. Direct. As Earth was saying, he has an issue with his back, so bowing might hurt him. Things like that. There's all kinds. Hando did say that he likes the foot bump, which I say the old kid and play dance, where you kick feet, and kind of interact. But the whole point is, I mean, I'm joking here a little bit, but I can see some of those things continuing. In general, I can also see some things like aspects of social distancing, being aware of your personal space and the space of others, being something that, in a way, I kind of hope maintains, because I don't mind, like in a lot of cases with stores, keeping a bit of a distance in queue from each other, right? I actually kind of like that, instead of feeling like someone's pressing up behind me or that I need to shove up on the person in front of me. I think that's been kind of nice.
I hope this is shaken our theory of this like invincibility of the West, right? That nothing's ever going to change, everything's going to be the same forever. I can't remember. I had an article that I found the other day that was, I think it was by The Guardian. That was called "The Problem of the UK's Exceptionalism," and it's this idea that this is an illness is coming from China, and it affects everybody there, but it's not going to affect us. Oh, it's landed in Italy and it's spread there, but it's not going to affect us. Oh, it's in the UK. Well, it's not going to spread and actually kill people here. It's not going to affect us. Even now, when the death tolls in the thousands in the UK and elsewhere, people are still saying it's not going to affect us, but it is going to affect you. You are, as I said to Wayne before the show, we all are going to know people who die from this. This is a big thing, and we cannot poo-poo it. And I hate these people who are not taking it seriously, because we will really notice it when it affects you personally. You need to open up your mind to the possibility that just because it's not currently affecting you personally doesn't mean it's not going to. And then also that's the step towards empathy of your fellow man. You will actually be able to understand that even though you're not currently going through it, other people are. Other people are losing their family, and that's horrible.
Absolutely.
And we need to treat it that way.
We just got another follower.
Hey. All right, we're gonna run out of keys here, guys. Okay, this is
actually I still have some that I can pull in too. Well, no, I have mine too, because I bought a bunch of them and I just haven't looked at them yet, so I can do a bunch more as well.
So there's another one in the chat. We've got 4 left from my bunch. And,
man, you guys are gonna have to make me.
You
guys are gonna make me log in and actually see which of these games I want to give away versus have.
Well, you do that, sir. I've got a couple things I can jump on.
Well, I did want to finish up. One of the challenges I did have, and I'm curious if others have run into this, is not every one of my projects around the house have succeeded. And so I was going to say, I did some where I also 3D printed some holders for my snowboards and blades and stuff that I have up in the garage now, which is really nice. Cleaning things up, organizing. this office still needs work. You can still kind of see in the corner there with some of my fluffies sitting in a stack that I need to find better places to put things. But that's a tech thing. I'll do that in geek stuff. But the ones that failed, what? Another one? Mothman just jumped on? Man, another key. And so... No, we just got another one. And so is that I was working on my cars, trying to spend some time in the garage while the weather is nice. And unfortunately, I got a hose stuck. Ooh, roll the goo. That's a good one. I got stuck on trying to remove the fuel line from me trying to have to replace this fuel pump in my Galant. And it just sucks because...
stuck. Are you still under your car right now? Sir.
The hose got stuck so that I couldn't get it off. And so I've put some WD-40 on to try to loosen up, but it still doesn't come off. So I'm stuck on that project where I wanted to finish getting the Galant running so I can get that thing sold and out of my garage and free up some more space, get rid of something I don't need, that kind of thing. So that one's got stuck. my 3D printers have been back and forth where I got them running, they're all good, and then certain things gum up, break, or otherwise. The more you use them, the more they cause issue. But then the other one that kind of I'm just like grr about is in my bedroom. I have been working for some time to add automation, and so one of the things I've been doing is putting in the web-enabled switches so that you can control them with things like any of your various home assistant tools. And I have them in my bathroom working fine, but in my bedroom, I've had this stuck because some reason the wiring of a ceiling fan and light fixture that you do in a main room is different than any other normal lights. And so I've got this weird situation where I put all the switches in, but the one for my just lights works. The one for my fan/light does not. And as I was I just recently was like, well, let me revisit that project. And I pulled everything back apart and unwired a bunch of things and cleaned up the wiring so there'd be more space and then making sense of it. But then I was like, all right, as I plugged everything in and turned them on, I turned off the switches that should be for the fan and the light, but the reading lights I have turned that on, and the light and fans turned on. Like all the lights are on off of one switch.
Dun, dun, dun.
And it hurts my brain, and I don't know why. And I'm like, what the heck? And we have another follower. Hello, everybody just followed, so thank you, everyone. And so another key will go in, and one of our last. And so I'm struggling, Gary. I had to pause it again because I don't understand the actual, like, how the logic of this connectivity works. Makes no dang sense to me from the engineering aspect. So I'm actually trying to look out there. Ooh, Darksiders. Ooh, someone who wants some time to really dig into a game. There you go.
Yeah, it's a good one as well. The best of the series. The rest are not so good. But
And so with that, I was just like killing me because I'm stuck on the project not knowing what I do, and I need to trace wires to figure out now what actually plugs into what to finish it, because I'd really love to be able to wake up in the morning, or actually what I'm really pushing to do and throughout my house is with my ceiling fans, I want to automate so that whenever the temperature in the outside/in my house gets to a certain level of heat, I want them to kick on automatically to start circulating the air throughout my house. Like my ceiling fans, I want them to kick on based on temperature versus just me telling it to. And so I want it to work, but especially as I get to the summer months, because I like to sleep with the fan on and things like that. I'd like to be able to time things. And so that's been a struggle. And I have a challenge when my projects don't go right, that it just like messes my whole organization of the day up, because I need success, or I need to know I'm making progress.
That, yeah. That's the whole mindset. I was talking to Hand over this a couple of weeks ago. The whole mindset of getting up in the morning and making your bed is not necessarily because it's important to make your bed. It's because it gets you in the mindset of, I have been productive today, and it makes you feel better.
Yeah, you get to work off of that.
Aid in future production.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like steps forward in each piece of that. And so that has been crushing me. Anyhow, so those are the things I've been doing. I haven't been geek this week. Finishing that up.
So I've got a couple of things I can say. Not much, just a couple of minor points. My week's been really dull, as everybody's has, right? We're all stuck inside. What are we really going to get up to? So I wanted to give a shout out to my drink, first of all, because or what's left of it.
Because it helps us through the week.
Because it helps me through every day. It's called, not really. I'm not actually an alcoholic.
When you work from home.
White Caribbean. And a white Caribbean is basically a white Russian, but I'm using rum instead. So it's milk, rum, cinnamon, and I put a little bit of creamer in there because it adds a nice flavor to it. Because normally I'd add cream to it, but we don't have any cream. So creamer is quite good for that. And it's and loads of ice, and it's absolutely delicious. It's
very
so
nice.
Good. I'm going to have another one after this.
I have a equal shout out.
I'm actually drinking the. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Oh, I was just going to say I have an equal shout out to Ron Zakapa, the XO version of their high-end rum, which I was gifted for shooting engagement photos for a friend, Zach. So thank you very much. I ended up pouring, surprisingly, the entire bottle into your gift of the decanter I have sitting here. So the $140-ish rum that I have is now sitting on my desk for me to sip during the show and other events. So thank you to Ron Zakapa rum. Smooth and delightful.
Cheers. So I wanted to say that I was actually drinking Captain Morgan's Black, which is the first time I've drank that, because I've had Captain Morgan spiced before, but the black stuff's
good.
actually really nice.
Yeah, black is good.
Also, next week on the show, we've got something special coming up. This is a maybe. I haven't confirmed it in a while. But
It was
the chap that
scheduled
I met-
before, and we'll see if it continues.
Yes, it was scheduled for next week, and I think it is still going to happen. But the young doctor soon to be doctor that I met on the plane to Denver, actually, when I went over last month. He was a fascinating young man who I talked to him for the entire flight, and he talked to me for the entire flight, and we just talked about the life, the universe, everything, and it's been great. It was really great chatting to the guy, and I said to him at the end, "Hey, man, like I didn't even know you before this, but are you willing to come on our show and chat? Just because you're such you had such interesting views on things." And he talked about his experiences in the field of medicine so far, and that was fascinating. And this is before COVID-19 hit. So I'd love to hear his thoughts and get a medical professional on the show and just, quiz him about how it's going in med school, how it's affecting his studies and such as well, and what's been going on with that. So he'll be on next week, and that'll be super interesting.
Very cool.
I also want to ask people, so it looks likely the government checks are going to be going out in the next week from what I've been seeing. So those of us who, well, I know there's some people in the chat and that we know who are going to be surviving off this, right? Because their jobs have been put at risk by COVID-19,
Yes.
Their income's been put at risk, and they need this just to survive. So I'm curious, what are people actually going to be spending their subsistence checks on? Do they have any plans? With the uncertainty in the world, are you going to be investing in something sensible, like, I don't know, food or a vegetable garden or face masks or toilet paper,
or even just banking it and keeping it on hand in case of a future situation you may have. I know one of the interesting discussions that have come up in admittedly specific forums like social media. On one of the groups I'm in on social media is PCMR, PC Master Race, commenting like the common thing of, "Hey, here's that check we just got, not at all going towards that, 2080 Ti that I've been looking at for some time for a graphics card." And the comment behind it of a shot of the president saying, "That's not what that was for." So I actually do agree or wonder that question of the things that you do are planning to use any additional money or stimulus you get in. And there are other discussions I want to have that, because this is essentially a forward on future tax credits and such from the next year versus the government just giving you your own tax money back from this year. There's nuances, but it shouldn't affect most people in a negative way at all. So I do hope that it comes through quick, and I personally believe that the U.S. could have done more for individuals, less for corporations, companies, in similar situations the way Canada and some of these other countries have done it. Let alone, man, could I get into some politics? Won't. Also, thanks for the additional follow there from Sakura here. As Darksiders 2 has just gone out there as a key for anyone to grab first and enjoy. So please do.
I'm afraid Darksiders 2 isn't quite as good as Darksiders 1, in my personal opinion. But it's still it's a game.
Hey, in this time where people have perhaps more to dig into a game and enjoy something new, there is a new game for someone to go enjoy. So please do.
Hando says, "I'm hoping the backs of the psycho landlords in Boston are broken. We can start getting good places again." Because he's thinking of getting a new apartment with this money.
Okay.
Which is understandable as well. I mean, rent prices in the cities have always been kind of crazy and unfair. And I've never really been the fan of the idea of landlordism. This concept of because you are richer than somebody else, you deserve an income from them. I don't quite understand how that makes sense.
It's been perverted from things of the day and amongst other things out there. But yes, someone who has the resources to theoretically was to build and maintain a location such that others could then rent what they want from it. Wouldn't be so bad if they actually invested in those properties constantly and kept the rent at reasonable amounts, but instead they profit heavily off of it. What was I just going to say about that? Before we go to break, because we do have a break coming up, for anyone, as Ken has asked, for those questions of what you would do with whatever kind of stimulus check comes your direction, is it going to be done something where you absolutely need it, and so this is just to survive? Do you have enough resource stored up, or you're still working in such a way that anything you get, you actually can do something more with? In which case, hey, let's go, and I'd love to We'd love to hear from you some of the details of what your plans are. Please email us at VtWShowX@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. In this time, what are you doing? What are your plans for any kind of stimulus that comes back? And just because, Mothman, you asked so kindly and said that those keys keep getting snuck up as quick as they get out there, here's another one. Another one for, what is that, Brothers 2? Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. That's one of my keys out there for you. So please, if you jump on it quick enough, grab that key. But with that, we're going to take a break. And then we'll come back. Unless, Ken, you had something you want to say about Instagram, or what were you going to do next?
Oh, I was just going to give a shout out to my Instagram because I never do that. So check out my Instagram. And I did have one other small talking point, which I thought was fascinating.
Go ahead.
I actually learned a few weeks ago. So you guys know Max Brooks, the guy who wrote World War Z, not the film, but the actual book.
Really good book.
Fantastic. Yeah, really good. He did Ask Me Anything a few weeks ago, and I took a screenshot from it because it was really fascinating. And it's a comment thread of 3 comments. The first one says, "Hi, Max. Greetings from Madrid, Spain. Have you received any other complaints, official or unofficial, from any other government described negatively in the book? For example, North Korea and what the book citizens are forced to do?" Max Brooks responded, the actual author, saying, "I haven't received any other criticism from any other government. No complaints from North Korea yet. On the contrary, the reason I'm now a non-resident senior fellow at the Modern War Institute at West Point and the Atlantic Council's Brent Scowcroft Center for Strategy and Security is because World War Z got on the reading list at the U.S. Naval War College."
Oh, wow.
So it's actually legitimately some required reading for some members of the military and military academies out there. World War Z, a zombie book, a fantasy zombie book, which I think is just fantastic. And it makes sense, because it really does a logical flow of what you should do in a crisis, and the bare components required for survival, and the thought processes for keeping an eye out for enemies and adapting to new situations and all that stuff. And I just thought it was such a fascinating thing that it's actually this fantasy zombie book is a required reading for military academies. I love it.
That is really, well, I mean, but it does talk about a lot of situations, having read the book, really enjoying it, in really intelligent ways of how society could change and what would come through the other end in that kind of apocalypse. And it does specifically talk about several things military related, which was very interesting. And so, that's actually really cool. All right, with that, we're going to take a break. I do throw in there, if you guys would be so kind, feel free to email us. You can do it during the show. You can do it during the week. We'll catch up on it next week with any of your answers for what you'll be doing with your stimulus. And we will continue to throw some keys out there as people continue to follow us, and we love that. So thank you to both Johnsbow and Laser Room for following us as well. But with that, we're going to take a break. I'm going to play another one of these songs from the McIntosh Kids. This one, Right Before My Eyes. And we'll be back right after this in about 3 minutes, everybody. So thank you very much for listening to or watching Show X on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook and Mixer, wherever you would like to find us. And so we very much appreciate it. But with that, we'll be back right after this.
Lose
listening to ShowX on VtWProductions.com.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back after the break. So, as there's... Oh, it's interesting, Ken. Now your lighting has gone completely the other direction.
What?
There we
It's
go.
fine to me.
No, now it just caught up. It was dark for a second.
Oh, I think it's when I changed screen because it's now based on my screen's brightness. Right? Like I'm on a black screen now. So
yeah, and so that draws you off, and now you're...
again.
Ken, you need to have the soft boxes. What happened, man?
A different country. I couldn't bring them all with me.
Just put them up. Put them up. Hey, another follower. Another key. All right, let's see. Which one should I throw in there? Yeah, I'm going to...
keys. We're actually like
No.
buying keys right now. I am in a way.
I got mine. Ooh, here's one of the games I really like. So hopefully someone enjoys this one. This one is Hacknet. I love Hacknet. I need to play more of it. It is so smart. So there's a key for another follow. Thank you for Sendio. That's awesome. All right. So as we come off the break, like I said, would still love to hear what you guys have to think about what things you'll be doing with any kind of stimulus you get. Please email us in at vtwshowx@gmail.com. We would love to be able to interact with that in the next week. So please do that. All right. So continuing on with things that are not as lacking of geek, we want to know what you've been doing that have been geek this weekend. So let's go in with a little bit of...
I'm a geek. Are you a geek? Geek Cred, level up!
So how have you been passing time that's been at least somewhat geeky?
Well, sir, yeah, I've been up to a few things. I'm wary of how washed out I am, and I'm super wary of it. I'll do half and half. Does that work okay?
Yeah,
okay,
that's fine.
better.
That's fine. We're just going to have to get you like a ring light or something.
So I had a Jackbox game night, actually, with a few friends.
Hey, that's awesome. How'd that go?
Yeah, it went pretty well. There was some issues with the audio not being easy to share. That was the one major issue, I would say. But otherwise, yeah, things were going fine. It wasn't a big deal at all.
So with the audio, then, how did you connect?
Well, all we did is use Zoom. So we just used Zoom, and then
that's what I was curious, because any of the ones I've done so far, I've done on Discord.
Yeah, one of the guys. Well, the problem is these are not.
I understand. That's why I was asking, because I know Discord is just that tick above to like geek level, versus where everybody's aware of Zoom now. As we get Zoom Watch now stalking us, so thank you very much for that.
Okay.
And as we're talking about Jack games, I have a key for the Jack Party Box too.
Oh, hey, nice one. That's a good one. I would have jumped on that myself, maybe. If I had time. Okay, I'm putting some more keys in our little our list there as well, so for reference. Okay, so yeah, we did the Jackbox night, and that was a lot of fun. I highly recommend it for those who are wanting to do something with workmates or whoever, and you want to play some video games, or you want to try and socialize with people who don't normally play video games. That's a really nice way of doing it. So I recommend that. I've been doing a lot of time. I spent a lot of time on Guru Shots because it's been a fun thing to passively do on my phone when sitting there watching TV or something. And so I've been taking part in all the competitions there. Again, also, well, at some point this week, I was feeling rather unproductive and about what I wanted to be productive, but I was stuck on the main problem I was doing at work. So I distracted myself for an hour, and I worked on my website, which is something that's completely redundant, doesn't help anybody except for my own, personal self-gratification,
which is positive.
Which is fine, right? And it's a good resume, it's a good CV, curriculum vitae. But it's generally a useless thing. Like I don't exactly have like an active bunch of followers who check my website every day. It's just me. But I've been trying to think of how I can enjoy using my website more. So one thing I did is I modified the main page. So that now instead of it being the same set of photos that I chose like a year ago, 2 years ago, it's now all of the photos that I have ever taken, and it randomizes between them.
Ooh, nice.
It's just a quick random number generator there more than anything. And I named all my photos 1 to 276.png. So it just does random number generator,
makes it easy, yeah.
picks one, and then shows it. Yeah, it's a super easy way of doing it. I'm sure there's ways of, I looked at some of the strategies, and some of them were like, it's easy. You just need to install this JavaScript library, this jQuery library, and then then you do a JSON request, and I was like, I don't want to do all that. This is supposed to be a quick and dirty job, so I just wrote a single function to do a random number generator, and then that was fine. So I fixed that up a little bit. That's on just the main page, and then I added a page that I actually wrote months ago. So it's a literature page, and the idea was I was going to just update some of the stuff I'm reading there, and it would be a nice little place for me to talk about books and stuff. And I started typing out Stoicism a few months ago, and I ended up writing like a short essay of sorts, like 2,000, 3,000 words, on my thoughts on Stoicism, and I was like, this is not what I intended this page to be. So this week I deleted all that and thought, like, this is ridiculous. Why did I do that? And I've now put it back to just being a short intro that's about how much I enjoy reading and how my views on audiobooks being the same as reading. And then I also put a couple of short stories that I've written there, so you can check that out if you're interested. A couple of which I've now sent into some places online. The New Yorker being one of them for short story submissions. They are copyright to me, but I have them open so anybody can read them if they're particularly interested. And then I have a big list of all the books that. So I've got 4 books there that I'm currently reading. I've got like 30 books there that I want to read that are in my wish list, and then I've got, I think, 140 or so books that I have read that I've updated on Goodreads. I've probably read a few more than that, but I can't remember them all over the years. So it's nice to have a single collection of all the books that are related to me.
Yes.
And it's nice. It's a nice visual representation to see them in a sort of like picture gallery like that.
See, I need to jump on it because I think I had made an account when you first had started bringing it up. Oh, maybe I
Goodreads.
didn't. Maybe I didn't. Shoot, because I don't see a thing in my normal that would tell me I did.
Well, for those who are interested, Goodreads is a nice little social media website of some sort that is basically it's basically a Facebook kind of type thing. It's got a news feed. The difference is instead of having a profile full photos of yourself or whatever, you have photos. You just put in books that you've read, and I quite like it. It's a neat little tool for just keeping a track of what you are currently reading, what you want to read, and what you have read. I mean, I can't think of the number of times I've been like, oh, what was that book that I really enjoyed? And then I completely blank on the title and author. I can tell you the storyline. I can tell you, the character intrigues. Couldn't tell you, like, the main points, though. I can actually discover what the book is called. So Goodreads is great for that kind of thing. Also, I'm constantly trying to challenge myself to read more. I said last week, we just don't have enough time on this earth. So I want to try and maximize the time reading because, for God's sakes, we all love the stories that are written by the masterworks that have been created over the centuries. And we all want to read them. So why don't we, right? My current goal is to do 48 books this year. And I don't know how many I'm through now, actually. I'll have a quick check. And that's approximately just under 1 book a week, which is not crazy, really, if you think about it. I mean, if you do this, half an hour to an hour of reading per day is pretty much what that means. It's not an insane amount. And I've just got your friend request. Thank you, sir. Added you. So I'm trying to do that, and I'm now slightly ahead of that curve. I'm on track. I've got 13 books out of 48 completed, so I'm on track for the year so far. Right now, I am reading The Martian by Andy Weir. That author name may ring a bell for you guys because that's, as it turns out, this is completely coincidental. That's the same author as the short story that I read live on air last week, which is The Egg. Andy Weir, the American writer. So he actually wrote The Martian, which you may remember being the Hollywood blockbuster a couple of years ago. The film, by the way, was fantastic. Thoroughly enjoyed the film. And I've always wanted to read the book because of that. And the book's pretty great. The only thing that I'll say this I'm not enjoying about the audiobook is the narrator, and this is going to be a sour taste, and you're not going to agree with me. I think it's Will Wheaton, and I like Will Wheaton in short bursts. I am struggling to listen to him for hours on end. I find his voice a little grating.
I liked him in Reading Red Shirts because it was Red Shirts, but sure. I have a challenge with him as an audiobook reader because I don't feel like he has enough dynamic portrayal of characters.
Well, yeah, he doesn't. There's almost no difference between female and male characters, and I dislike that. I like to be able to tell the difference of the voices I'm listening to, and I like when narrators can really give each individual character their own flair. Effectively, I'm looking for a professional actor of sorts, really, and he doesn't portray that. He portrays Will Wheaton is reading this book. That's what it sounds like. I think Mark Watney, the main character in the book, when he reads in his normal voice, I'm like, yeah, that's how I could imagine Mark Watney sounding, because he's basically a nerd on Mars who has nothing to do for 500 days except survive, or so. And it makes sense that he sounds like this nerdy dude who makes weird emphasis and gets overly excited about little things, because that's a nerd on Mars, right? So his voice is perfect for that. What I don't like is when he then moves to the commander of the mission, who's a girl, and her. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. I feel that's weirdly ageist. She's a woman, and she's kind of a serious sounding person. But for some reason, she has the same voice as Mark Watney, and that's just irritating. Anyway, thoroughly enjoyed reading The Martian by Andy Weir. I do recommend it. It's a shorter book than the other ones I've been reading. I think it's 13 hours or something like that. I've got an hour left on it, and I'm really looking forward to finishing it, hopefully tonight. But I very much recommend it if you haven't read it before. That's The Martian by Andy Weir. I'm also trying to read The Blinding Knife by Brent Weeks, which is I can't remember the name of the series. The color spectrum, something like that. The Lightbringer series.
Oh yeah.
Very, very much. I really enjoyed the first novel, and I started reading this one, and I thought, nope, I've got a couple other things I need to read first. These things that I should read rather than things that I want to. So that's why I'm doing The Martian next, for example. It wasn't necessarily something that appealed to me, but I wanted to read at some point. But I'm glad I picked it up in the end. You find that with most life experiences that you force yourself to do, you think that you won't enjoy it, or you're not really up for it, and then you enjoy it anyway. And I'm trying to make that one of my sort of inspirations for how I read as well, what I choose to read. Not necessarily my comfort zone, which is just fantasy all the time. I'm trying to move out into other things and try them.
Tough. I know that feeling.
But yeah, right. It's a tough thing to do, and that's why last month I read that book, the non-fiction book, The 5 Love Languages, which isn't exactly my standard reading out there, like how to fix relationships and romance and how to improve relationships and such like that. But one, my wife recommended it to me, and two, I'm trying to read things I wouldn't normally read, so I'm like, yeah, I'll read it. I want to have an open mind to these kind of things. I played a little bit of Factorio this week. I was on Monday, actually, was the last time I really properly played. I sat down for 2 or 3 hours, and I launched a bunch of rockets. And so I completed that map that I've been working on, which is great.
Oh, nice.
It's the most efficient map I've ever made. I then tried to play a little bit of Endgame, and it's just ridiculous. To try and make everything as efficient as possible, you realize that to get to the rocket stage, you often stretch your limits to get to that phase. Like, really, you don't have enough to properly automate all that, and you kind of do some stuff by hand. So when you then try to go to the next phase and try to do some stuff there, you realize, oh yeah, I'm really lacking a lot of resources. So I sort of stopped playing for a little while now. I played on Friday because I'm still trying to do some for work. So that was more of a work-related stuff. I have a couple guys from my research group who play with me, and I'm trying to introduce them to Factorio and teach them the basics so that they can get to grips with it, so that we can do a research paper about the problem behind it. So that's still ongoing as well. I've been playing Fortnite.
Yes.
The first time in forever. It's because one, quarantine, and two, I'm not American, and I'm living in America, so hanging out with my old buddies is kind of hard, right? It already was hard. The isolation kind of makes it easier in some respects because everybody's online all the time now. So it means that now that we can hang out and play games. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So that's what we've been doing. We've been playing a little bit of Fortnite, and that's been good. Even though it's not the game of choice, but I have found myself playing it by myself now as well, just because I'm into it again.
It's interesting, right? Because when you find a game that you actually enjoy like that, even though they're team-based and it's fun to play with your teams, if you're enjoying it enough, playing it on your own is just as much entertainment, which I will see if that happens to me with Warzone.
Oh, and Hando just said in the chat, Andy Weir also worked at Blizzard. I had no idea. That's really cool.
Nice.
I did not know that. Me and Kitten, my lovely wife Kittenfeatures, we tried to watch MASH. So what we decided a couple weeks ago was we both want to introduce each other to some TV and media that we both enjoy separately. So she wants to introduce me to Community,
Okay.
by the same guy who wrote Rick and Morty, by the way. So it's not some unknown thing. And I was trying to introduce her to MASH. And so we're about 4 episodes into each. And so MASH is an old TV show.
Oh, yeah.
I loved it as a kid, and I watched it like 7 years ago again, and I still enjoyed it. But I watched it very passively while playing games or something, so it was kind of on the background. Now that we're actually watching it and it's directly in front of us, we got I especially, I think, got extremely uncomfortable watching it.
Oh.
So, for example, in the first episode, MASH was originally a book, then it was a feature film, and then the TV came from that.
Yes.
And I think that the book was written in 1959, 1960, something like that, and the TV show was done in the 70s.
I thought I'd have to check on the book, but I would think that it would be closer to the 70s based on stuff it talked about, but I'm not sure.
1968. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
It was. I was 8 years off.
Yeah, just because of what it's covering, it makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So 1968, and it's based on that time zone and how people acted then, and the kind of things people said then, and the culture then.
Absolutely.
And I'm not trying to make excuses for it. I'm just stating what it is, right? And so when you watch something like that, you have to sort of look through the lens of history. You're watching something that back then was culturally appropriate, even though it may not be now. But there's a limit, right? Like there's just some.
I'm gonna be curious where you go with this, because actually this reminds me of discussions I've been having recently or a little while back with some other content. But
well, okay. So my viewpoint is not that it should be banned or anything like that. That's absolutely not my viewpoint. I actually think, if anything, MASH being a classic should be shown more on TV. I think more people should be aware of it and more people should watch it. I really do. Largely because of the historical context of it now and what you can learn from it. So in the first season, I think you'll see all over MASH subreddit and other forums online, people are constantly trying to say, oh, well, the first season was heavily influenced by the book and the movie, and the writers were separate, and Alan Alda really gets his own personal control of the show from season 2 or 3 onwards. So that's when you should really judge the show for what it is. But season 1 it's difficult to get through. Every single time that any female character is on the show so far, they are not referenced to as human beings. They are referenced to as sexy nurses. They all have nicknames that reference to the way they look. Whenever they try to raise an opinion about something, the doctors always return it to the fact that they are women and they are attractive. They are not allowed to have any viewpoint and exist at all in the show other than being sexual objects. Now, I am the kind of guy that when I hear that argument, I'm like, okay, you're clearly exaggerating. Right? Like, that means like once in a while they'll do a joke that's inappropriate and that's it. No, it was every conversation, and it got a little. Not only was it not really funny to have the same joke again and again, like it's just not. It was also an uncomfortable joke. And you see in the show, like Margaret Houlihan, Hot Lips as they call her, would occasionally get mad and walk away from the screen like a tantrum and walk away. And back then, I remember when I was younger, I would watch that and laugh at it and be like, "Ha, they're funny. They made a joke at her expense, and it's fine." But now I'm watching it, I'm like, oh no, they were just being kind of sexist, and she's just getting mad because she can't actually be respected as the head of the nurses, which is and her professional opinions are ignored because they seem to think that she's attractive, and that's all that matters. And I get it's a comedy and stuff, but I don't know. It was just too much. In the later seasons, I'm aware that is massively when Alan Alda gets control, who's the actor behind Hawkeye. That massively is reduced, and in fact, a lot of feminist stuff is actually pushed to the show. A lot of the women nurses, and including diverse races of nurses as well, are given more time on screen and given more prominent roles, and often plot points are against that kind of stuff. And it is the doctor is trying to say, like, no, you can't just treat them like that. You need to treat them as they're fantastic nurses, and they're some of the best we have. If we lose them, it'd be the worst thing ever. And they show real respect for them as human beings. But in the first season, it's not there. And it's a really tough thing to watch. Also, there's a character who actually, sadly, the actor died in the past week. So I should also mention that. That his name was Spear Chucker Jones.
Okay.
The black surgeon in the first episode. So Spear Chucker Jones, Terry Pendleton, I think his name was. Wait, let me get it right. Sorry, Timothy Brown. Timothy Brown, Philadelphia Eagles star turned MASH actor, Timothy Brown, passed away 2 days ago, which is 5 days ago, which is very sad. But anyway, his character was called Spear Chucker Jones. And when I did some Googling on this as to why his character was called Spear Chucker Jones. And the explanation that they give is, well, he was really good at javelin throw in college.
Oh,
and it's like,
okay.
Yeah, okay, I get that. There's
it could
technically
be
non-racist reason for it.
Well, but that could have
the
come.
Only black guy in the entire thing, and he's called Spear Chucker.
I got you.
And then they got rid of him because they were worried that apparently, this is what I've read, and I don't know if this is entirely true. Apparently, the writers thought there weren't any actual African American surgeons at the time in the Korean theater of war. So they felt it historically inaccurate. So they removed the character quietly. So the only black character that exists in the first season, they got rid of because they thought it wouldn't be appropriate. So not only did they call him Spear Chucker Jones, which I'm sorry, like, I get that it was like a product of his time. I get that they have a non-racist reason, which is he was good at javelin. Like, whatever. I mean...
So Ken, what's your point?
We stopped watching MASH because it was very uncomfortable. We weren't enjoying it.
Okay. And I say this because one of the challenges I've been running into a lot of people recently is what I have a challenge myself, and I enjoyed a lot of these things as I was growing up. Things that the sensibilities of culture back in the 70s, 80s, and such like that, especially, let alone the 90s into today, was very different than where we are today. And in doing so, it's interesting to me how a lot of people or not a lot, it kind of goes back and forth between people about whether they can consume some of these older programs and appreciate them for what they were, or if, like, I think the discussion I specifically was having was on stations like with Disney Plus and with some of these other streaming services that have older catalogs as part of what they produce. I forget who it was putting a caveat in front of some of their shows that basically said that these ones were made at a time where other things were more appropriate than they are today.
Yep.
And in doing so, wow, we've had a few more follows I need to drop stuff in for.
Shit, sorry.
No, but, and so they haven't, so they're at least letting people know that you may experience something here that is not today considered socially appropriate, right? And my comment,
and that's what Bab says in the chat.
And some other groups and some things have done ones where they're just not showing certain content. And my concern, what was that key for?
Something in the wish list, in the list that's now gone.
Oh, the random ones? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
One of my challenges in general has been that I want to make sure that while I think it is fine to maybe put that kind of disclaimer at the front of something, I want to make sure we don't edit, change, get rid of the content that was originally produced and to
Completely
try
agree.
to wash it in some way so that it's no longer, there is a reference to where we were in that time, because I lived through it. And when I was living through those things, it was appropriate at the time. And so what I get concerned with is when I see people today causing hate towards older things, and specifically very specific either shows or depictions, versus just saying a more, what I think would be appropriate comment of something like, we would probably not make something like that today, but because of when it was made, it's still relevant that it was a really good thing, or it was a really well-made thing, or very entertaining thing. And maybe
Totally agree.
I don't like it now, but don't try to change it to say that so nobody should have liked it back then, or something like that.
Oh, that's absolutely not my point, though.
That's why
I said.
That's why I said I was curious.
The first thing I said was, I love MASH. I really enjoyed it, and I don't think we should ban it in any which way. But rewatching it now with my mindset and the learning that I've done over the years, my view of it has changed, and I don't think we should ban it. And in fact, like I said, I think people should watch it. I think people should watch it because it's enlightening. And it's also a very funny TV show. It's hilarious.
But that's, like I said, that's where I was curious where you would go with it. And there's a couple more keys for everyone. Is that I have seen the people who, in some ways, it feels like the way they're discussing older content, they're doing it with a sense of, oh my God, I can't believe anybody ever did that. And I'm just kind of like, shut up, you child. Either you never were there to live through the time to understand how the world has changed over time and need to understand and respect that, or you are conveniently, if you did live through it, choosing to forget what the world was like at that time and putting a lens based on today, looking back at the past. And I don't think that is correct. And it's the same kind of thing to extend it further when you look at some of the legal things people try to press, where they try to say that someone who did something that is today no longer socially acceptable but did it 30 years ago when it was, well, we're going to hate on you today because of what you did 30 years ago when everyone was doing it because you're famous still or something like that. But I'm just saying it's an extension of that where I was more curious. So I'm not saying you did anything wrong or that I disagree with you. But it was just I was curious how you're going to, what your statement for your end up goal with saying that you are no longer or you together weren't comfortable watching it based on some of that content.
I mean, it doesn't belittle it in any which way. It's just a shame because I really wanted to introduce Kitten to MASH, but we could skip a few seasons ahead. But then she wouldn't have the context and the love for some of the characters who
perhaps
through previous seasons.
I say perhaps. I will say that MASH went for so long and it had such general changes throughout time that you could probably jump in almost anywhere. If you follow any season of it from the beginning to the end of that season, you'll probably get a great experience. Because I used to watch it very piecemeal. And it took me a long time to go back from the beginning of it. And this is something I have a lot of feeling to because I know Earthweaver, my brother, has the box set of MASH.
Yeah.
And having gone through the whole thing. And it, for me, is a dear show. It really is.
Oh, absolutely. It's close to my heart. And it's one of those things I really want to do is I live near Toledo, right?
Oh, yeah.
Detroit. I really want to go there. And there's a couple of restaurants there that have, signatures by the actor saying,
because those were all the ones from Klinger, right? Was it Klinger that was from Toledo? Yeah. And therefore, all of the stuff he would talk about from back home that he missed during the war, it's like, exactly. I need to go here and this, that. Stuff, yep, right? Yep. It was all
different corn dogs they had and stuff. Yeah.
Which is awesome, right? And so
I love that.
No, me too. So that's cool.
As well as watching MASH and Community, so instead of watching MASH now, we decided to watch something else that I really enjoyed in the past. And we thought about it for a little while, and I was kind of struggling to think of anything. And she said, what about House? You always talk about House. And I was like, I thought you'd seen that. And she said, no, I've only seen a couple of episodes. And I was like, oh, fantastic. Let's watch MASH. So we then decided to go and watch MASH. And
nice.
We watch House. And we're now 2 or 3 episodes in. And I'm having such a great time already. I'm sinking into the nostalgia. I love the music of the intro. Each of the cases that come up, I'm just like, oh, I remember this one. It's great. And it was quite interesting to actually compare the two straight after watching MASH to see House, because Hugh Laurie in House at the very start, he's quite sexist. Like he actually says a couple of things like. In the first episode, they're trying the team of doctors that he has working for him are trying to work out why they were hired. Chase, as it turns out, was very quickly we find out that he was hired because his dad was rich and asked him to. He put in a favor. It wasn't really much more behind it than that. The foreman, the black guy, was hired not because he was black, but because he has a criminal history. And that's why he was hired, because he wanted somebody who was willing to bend the rules. That's what House was after, which was interesting. And the last person is this woman doctor, and she's one of the main themes of the episode is she was continually asking, "Why did you hire me? Why did you hire me?" And eventually turns around and says, "It's because you're attractive. It's because you're an attractive woman." And she says, well, that's not fair. I was one of the top in my class. And he said, but not the top. And she said, I'm one of the, I don't know, she kept saying all these reasons as to why she should have been hired anyway. And he said, yeah, but you're not the best. You're good, but you're not the best. The reason I hired you is because you're an attractive woman. And I was like, how's this being sexist here? That's pure sexism, right? Hiring somebody because they're attractive, even though it's not a requirement for their job. And then he goes on to explain, no, the real reason I hired you is because you're damaged, and I wanted somebody who had some issue. You are somebody who is attractive. You would just show up and people would hand you stuff. That's how models work. You could have done that. You're that attractive, but instead you worked your butt off, and you're one of the best doctors that have graduated in the past couple of years. That interests me, and I want you to work for me because that's interesting. And I was like, okay, so it's not just because it's a sexist thing, but they actually explained it in context and made it a plot point, and it's a part of character growth. There's nothing wrong with having racist or sexist characters in a TV show or in a film if it's part of their character and it's not actually just saying, woo, racism or woo, sexism, but it's instead, either as a plot point or it's an interesting character trait that's either developed upon or is there ruin or whatever else, right? That's all interesting, and that's a part of good TV and a part of good media, I think. So that was interesting.
Gotcha.
Last thing I want to mention. Sorry, I don't realize I'm taking quite a lot of time here. Right, so Kittenfeatures has been playing Witcher.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she's been really enjoying it on PlayStation. And I've been enjoying sitting watching with her, so I'll sit next to her, and I've been trying to learn how to shut up because I obviously, it's like for if you're a gamer and you're next to somebody who doesn't play as many games as you really want to help out and be like, oh, if you do this, you do that. There's a great tip here.
There's a challenge to that, yes.
Yeah, it's tough, and I'm trying to bite my tongue more. But she's doing great. Like, she's doing really well. There's a couple challenges where I was like, oh, she's going to struggle here, and nope, she kicked his butt. So I was actually quite impressed. The only times I will make a comment is if it's something really minor and quick, like you're using the wrong sword, like you're using a steel sword against monsters or your silver sword against humans. I'll say you need to change sword, and that's it. Or eat food, you're about to die. That's about it. It's what I would say to somebody who's an expert or a beginner, right? But what we decided is sometime the next week we're going to sit down together and try and play some Rimworld together.
Okay.
Not on multiplayer. We're going to sit together, like she's going to sit next to me here, and we're going to trade seats once in a while, and we're going to make decisions about a base together, and just see where it goes. Because Rimworld is such a massive game, and she loves The Sims. So my thought is, if we can get to Rimworld, you can do so much more in Rimworld than you can in The Sims, right? There's psychology in it, there's animal taming, there's research, like there's tiers of technology and warfare. It's got everything, right? It's a massive game. And I'd really like to see her go wild with it and get into it and see what she can do. So that's what we plan to do next week is play some Rimworld. Highly recommend it for anybody who doesn't have it yet. Great game. So sorry, that's everything I've been up to in the past week and stuff I want to talk about in terms of geek. So what have you been up to? Is there anything you want to share?
Well, so I already talked about a bunch of the things I've done that's somewhat geeky. Talked about interacting with family and friends via Zoom and things like that. I do like to bring up the games that I've been playing a little bit. And so I was going to comment that I have caught up as far as I'm allowed to yet. I got to double check with my friend who's also watching it, Haikyu, the sports anime about volleyball, which I continue to say is amazing and hits on all of the best things about a growth anime, where a story where someone who is talented but raw gets brought into a system and has to learn and struggle to progress, and their skills are put to the test, and all of the benefits they get are because they worked their butt off to get there. And I really appreciate a story that tells that versus people who are just powerful and amazing and just kind of succeed. I like when you have that underdog story, but it's an underdog story where they earn every step of the way, so you can kind of take the ride along with them and have equal levels of joy when they succeed. And so Haikyu is just so good at doing that. Really recommend it. Such good storytelling. Loving it. Other than that, I had mentioned that I have been playing Call of Duty Warzone, the free-to-play Battle Royale mode that it has. They just dropped a new update that, as I was watching a couple of my friends play yesterday, I was like, oh, I'll jump in with them. And I jumped into Discord, listened to them talk as I was waiting for it to load up. And then it said 15 gig update. And I was like, oh,
I hate that, man.
Is that all? Thankfully, even with my somewhat restricted internets, what? Oh, man, Octal in there talking Norwegian or whatever at us. I don't even know what that says. I know, right? Please.
Wow, that was probably very.
Oh, terrible! I hope Mistress of Giggles is just laughing at me for that.
I'm sure Octail is as well.
Yeah, exactly. But Warzone is solid good. They just dropped this update. Once it all downloaded, I was able to get it before they finished their match or right as they were finishing it. And they just added the modes where now you can do solo queue, dual queue, or solos, 3s, and 4s for queuing up into a match. And the matches support 150 players in a match. I enjoy it. I think it's another great move of the overall battle royale genre, in that it has taken some of the good things from pieces here and pieces there and brought them together. So I really like that. What? Laser Lemon just followed us. Looks like I gotta grab another key. Let me grab. So the nice thing is, because we both got the same pack, we're able to do a couple of the same ones out to people. And so,
nice.
Although I'm catching up to parts of my list where I've already done that one. So I'll do another one.
Don't worry. You keep trying.
I'm dropping another one in here. So this one's
I'll be doing one as well then. There's a double key drop.
Oh man, look at you. So other games on Steam, if anybody wants to grab those for joining us and following us, we much appreciate it. But yeah, so playing that, enjoying it. I didn't do well yesterday, didn't do terrible, because a lot of the people in the VtW Discord who play, there's some really good Warzone players, Call of Duty players out there, and so I give them credit, much shouts out for that. They dragged me along. We didn't win any, but we did fairly well. I appreciate it. But that's been a fun game for me. Still playing ARAMs, still playing some Teamfight Tactics, actually. That's been fun as well. I need to go back in. I just figured out, and I'm hoping to spend more time in it, but I finally figured out how to get VR chat to work for me. So in VR on my Oculus, they have the social network platform VR chat where everyone goes into avatars of different areas and are able to talk to each other. I am mostly aware of it because I know my nephew uses it, and so I'm hoping he'll jump in with me and show me around. And because I keep watching all these polygons who are able to speak all these different languages, find outlets for where they're able to practice their languages. And one of the more entertaining ones has been VR chat, because they can go into like Chinese or Japanese or Korean rooms where is primarily people from those nations in those chats, and they can come in and start practicing and doing it. I love watching them do it in such a way that people think they're locals before they reveal that they're from America or something like that. And that, for whatever reason, I enjoy that kind of interaction. So I almost want to find something like that, as I'm just starting in my time to use things like Duolingo to start figuring out more Japanese and such, to maybe go find a room in VR chat that is a not true full Japanese, because I ain't there, but something that's friendly for people learning like me. I think that would be a blast.
Yeah. The best way to learn the language, Duolingo and stuff is great for I think reinforcing your learning. But
it's getting me the start of vocabulary, man. I love that it's getting me to actually remember things like shiro and ako and all these ones that, like, it's doing that elementary level association. But you're right.
Like, immersing yourself by talking to somebody is the best way to do it. Like, even if it's just passively once in a while, a little bit here and there, that's the way to do it, man.
Agreed.
I think if you immerse too much, it can be a problem. Like, I have a lot of friends who've been lived in China, like old colleagues and stuff who went to China and lectured there for like a year or two, not knowing any Chinese, and they come back and they know some, but the problem is they end up joining an English community there, and then they never learn anything, and that's pretty common. You see that all over the place, and that's kind of sad, So I think there's a certain level of immersion you need to manage, where maybe at work you're expected to learn a little bit as you go, and you speak with you join meetings where people talk the language and stuff like that. But I think if you go too far in or too little, it's tough to learn. So I think you're doing the right thing by joining these virtual routes. It's
something I've always been interested in. I've tried multiple little programs to do stuff. Duolingo has been nice because it's on my phone. I tend to have it on me, and right now it's basic vocabulary, numbers and colors, and some sounds of different hiragana and stuff like that, and so that's nice. So it's a simple approach. I've tried other methods in the past, and it's just never stuck. So far I've liked this for that purpose. Nice. Other than that, geek-wise, like I said, I think I talked about all the things I've been doing 3D printing and such. In its own level of geek, one of the nice things is I've had more time to focus on actually prepping some meal stuff, because I've done a little bit like modified keto again, trying to just get a little more on track while I'm working out. And so I've been at least once a week sitting down and doing a solid cooking situation. I have a plan for today and some stuff prepped that hopefully I'll get going here as soon as we're off the show to kind of get more together with it. And so that's been a fun little geek. But I think that's most of what I've been doing that's been geek this week. I played with a tiny bit of photography. I took some shots of the supermoon when it was coming up, when the moon was really close. Nothing fancy, but a couple shots out there. As well as I did some board around the house shots where I took some pictures of my cats unwillingly. And the first sprig of flower that was blooming on one of my trees in my yard, I took a picture of it. I've taken a lot of pictures of those trees, but I saw the very first buds, so I was like, let me grab that. And so, yeah.
That's nice.
It's all good. And I apologize for people that maybe are having issues with encoding and such. It seems like we might have had a hiccup in our affiliate status on Twitch where it's no longer dropping down to the other formats of either the frames per second or the resolution, because we're doing 1080p 60 hertz. But it's last week you were able to downsize it as needed. This week it seems like it's stuck at that, so it's only doing the 1080 60. So unfortunate if that's not coming through on everything else. Apologize for that. Hopefully we'll have it sorted in our next episode. We'll see. All right. I think that's everything we had. Topic-wise and such, I know I had at least one thing as I transition to
technology, news, and more today on the Geekoscope.
I wanted to mention that as we keep getting, we're giving out keys and stuff like that in this time of social isolation and having to spend more time at home. There's other groups out there that continue to support us, and I've said it multiple times. Epic Game Store, for all those people who do or dislike their having their own launcher in store, they at least have been pretty dang solid about giving out free games. And they have 2 more free games that are currently available right now, both Close to the Sun and Sherlock Holmes Crime and Punishments. Both are $30 games that they have free. All you have to do is log in to the Epic Store and click on them, go through the store, purchase them, bet you get them for free. So if you need some more content beyond the games we've been giving out and the great deals that Humble Bundle's been doing and things like that, check out the Epic Game Store, sorry about that, and get some more free titles. So I wanted to share that with all of you. Ken?
Yeah, I can do a little chatting. So one of them I clicked on, it was a really good deal for all of Bethesda's stuff. It seems to have ended, even though it's an Easter sale. It's
it
from
ended
Greenman Gaming.
Basically either today or the day before, I think, because today being our
Easter sale.
Being the Lord and Lich day that it is.
And there goes all of our Christian part of the audience.
Hey, Hando's kept with us through our jokes in the past.
Okay.
Hey, same joke every year.
That's true. So the best RPGs of the last 15 years. This is an article from IGN that I was kind of interested in. It's an opinion piece that I'm minorly interested in. And we can discuss and see if we agree or disagree. So number 10 was Dragon Quest XI-S, Echoes of an Elusive Age.
Never played. I haven't played a Dragon Quest since I haven't played a Dragon Quest since probably Nintendo days. NES days.
Yeah, I've never been interested in that. And to be honest, I've never really been into JRPGs. You know my disillusionment with Animu and mangoes, so I struggle to get into that kind of thing. I don't have a problem with it in concept, in theory, and if I was given a good enough game that was like, hey, play this, and it was forced upon me, I imagine I'd probably enjoy it. But I just never have. Even would you call Castlevania a JRPG? Is that a JRPG?
Yeah, it's more action. It's action side scroller.
But isn't there a lot of RPG elements to Castlevania where you level up your weapons and I don't know. Okay, I don't know. That one's always been kind of tempting to me. I remember when I was 12, one of my buddies had Castlevania, and I kind of wanted to play it. But that's about as close as I've come, and that's not even a JRPG apparently. So no. I guess I'm not interested after all. So it says here this is an 80-plus hour game, and it's a pure distillation of classic JRPGs. Battles are streamlined enough to feel quick and satisfying, while still providing a real challenge. Okay, not really my thing. So number 10 on this list, I'm going to put a thumbs down to. I'm not really too keen. Would you say that's your number 10?
I don't even know if it'd be on the list, so continue on.
It wouldn't even be on my list of games that exist. I had no idea. Okay, number 9, Dragon's Dogma: Dark Arisen. So
I feel really bad right now because I don't know any of these.
Right. So, Dragon Dogma Dark Arisen is an excellent expansion from Dark Arisen. It's a very special and often overlooked RPG for a number of reasons. For one, it's an excellent combination of exciting, action-centric combat and extraordinary deep RPG mechanics. Apparently, it's on Switch. I don't know. Dragon's Dogma, like Twitch chat. Tell us if it's if this is a thing that's like known. Do people know of this game? Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. And hi, Mog. Okay, number 8. This one I got hands down got to agree with. Dragon Age Origins, or as I have to say, Dragon Age Oranges. Yes, this is a generation-defining RPG dense with satisfying player choices. Absolutely, great world building, challenging battles, and memorable characters. Yeah, I remember Morgana to this day. Right? Like, who doesn't remember the sexy witch and her mom?
It's another one that I never played.
It's a pretty good.
I remember more.
Description of the game.
I remember more about Dragon Oranges because of Octo and Hordak vs. the World. When Octo would talk about that all the time about Dragon Oranges. That's the most I actually know about it because I never played it.
Oh, dude, it's such a good game. Like 2 and 3 are okay. They're more actiony than anything, and they're fine. And one of them has Felicia Day, so that's nice.
That was during your the time where Felicia was on your mind. Yeah. Yes,
she's still there. She hasn't gone entirely. So Dragon Age Oranges is such a good game. It really it reignited my love with post World of Warcraft gaming. I guess it reminded me that there are games out there that are not World of Warcraft that I can enjoy, and that was Dragon Age Oranges for me. Highly recommend it. Okay, number 7 is Elder Scrolls Skyrim. I'm a little sick of Skyrim these days. Like I hear about it too much still. I'm like, can you calm down a little bit?
But here's the thing: when did Skyrim come out?
2011.
Ish, right? So in the past almost decade, it continues to be relevant.
Oh, and it came out 11/11/11, of course.
And people still play it. And so because when Skyrim came out, I played the crap out of it and I enjoyed it and I modded the heck out of it and enjoyed it. And what's weird, it is still installed and I still go back every once in a while and try to add mods until I break it again. Because there's a certain level of fun and nostalgia, and when you get them all in there and you actually get it working, it's still good. And so,
Kitten plays as well sometimes.
Well, and so even if it's oversaturated because it's been out there, it is still an amazing game.
I am sick of hearing about it, though. I mean, like, it really, okay. Here's I'm showing my cards.
You did too good.
Here's the truth. Oblivion was better.
So, the actual stories and general depth of game, it was way better in Oblivion. The polish of a lot of it being put together, I still think was solid in Skyrim. And it just, where I played both of those a heck of a lot. And I will agree. Because I think Oblivion has more depth to it as a whole, but I think more things were tied to better together in Skyrim. And again, Skyrim has had the lasting power.
Yeah. I mean, it does. That's the thing. When like, if I was asked to name 10 quests in Skyrim, I could probably do it, but it would take a long time, right? Not even necessarily name the actual titles of the quest, but like the story. I could probably eventually do it. If you asked me to name 50 in Oblivion, I could probably do it. Because Oblivion had so many classic quests that just, like the Dark Brotherhood alone, oh my god, those quests were fantastic in Oblivion. They were so memorable. They were defining for the genre as well. And so I'm glad Skyrim's in this list. It should be. And it is best RPGs in the last decade. Fine.
It's right in there.
I would still say that Oblivion was better, though. Okay, number 6 was Disco Elysium.
I've heard nothing but amazing things about this one, and it's a much more modern one on PC, but I have not played it myself. And when I was going through several lists for even Game of the Year stuff we did at the New Year, this was on the list. It got so much noise that I'm curious, and I'm tempted to pick it up. It's just I have such a list of games I don't know if I ever would.
So the description is it's a unique blend of noir, detective fiction, traditional pen and paper games, and a big helping of existentialist theory. that plays unlike anything else in the genre, really. A twisting plot, a cast of memorable characters, a massive depth of choice, all combined to create an experience that begs to be savored as one of the finest and most creative RPGs of any era. That's quite a sell. I am interested. I don't know anything about it other than what we've talked about and what has been read. So yeah, I'm interested. I don't. But as for agree or disagree, I can't really say. Number 5 was Persona 5 Royal.
I never really played any of the Persona series, but I've heard very good things about them overall.
I remember I once liked a song from Persona and played it on ShowX, I think like 300 episodes ago during a solo show, and a couple people in the audience went mad and were like, "Oh my god, you like Persona? I love Persona! Anime for the win!" And I was like, "I don't know what's happening. I just hit a random playlist."
It's funny to me that you still remember that.
Well, yeah, I remember because I felt kind of on the spot. I felt like I was being challenged for my choice of music, and I was like, I just hit a random playlist, guys. I don't know. And it turned out to be Animu. The deluxe edition of the already fantastic Persona 5 Royale it's called, proves that the latest entry in Atlus's JRPG series is still one of the best around. Persona 5 already introduced an instantly memorable ensemble cast, exceptional turn-based combat, and a wild, epic story told with heart. Yeah, I've heard good things of Persona 5, and so fine, whatever.
Yeah, I've heard good things.
I mean, it's anime, so it's instantly just not part. It's just not even considered, right? It's out of the list. So thumbs down. 2
Wrong.
thumbs down.
I cannot speak to it personally, but your anime hate does not apply. Continue.
It does. My anime hate is objective, not subjective. Number 4, Divinity Original Sin 2. It's basically the best D&D video game we never got. Not only does it have a sprawling fantasy world to lose hundreds of hours in, but perhaps most importantly, encourages players to think creatively like few other games. And this is entirely by design. It's liberating to play a huge RPG that rewards cheating the system and encountering NPCs and opponents that acknowledge and react to it. Okay, I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that aspect at all. I know the name of the game, and I've been aware of it. It's another one I haven't played.
It's one of those games that goes on sale frequently on Steam, and I'm like, oh, if it was like 10% more, I'd buy it because it's always interested me. But I still haven't got it yet. So, okay, I'm going to put that on my list of to buy. I need to get that. Divinity Original Sin 2. I have to get that. Okay, I'm going to try and fly through these next few since we've only got 2 minutes left. Number 3 is Mass Effect 2. Fine. Mass Effect series was great. I mean, I still haven't played Andromeda, and I don't know if I ever will.
I've still only put an hour into the series, really.
Dude.
That's all right. No, your look, you say that. Just wait till the chat because I'm sure Legend will comment as well because I get so much grief for my lack of Mass Effect.
Oranges and Mass Effect were some of the best games of like my teenage years. Like you need to play them. They are just so goddamn good. They are so good. Like Mass Effect
I've heard.
It's hard to get through these days. Right, but they're so goddamn good. Please play them. Put them on your list.
I'll put it this: when I started playing Mass Effect a little bit, it felt still fairly recent to me compared to a lot of games. When I started, like just last year, when I touched it for a second, I was like, "Huh, this is actually not that hard to play." Now, granted, I haven't got to any of the like exploration on the planet missions I keep hearing about, where you're in the like vehicle forever. I hear those are tough.
They're a bit of a slog, but it's not. I've definitely done a lot worse slogs in games than that. Number 2 is Fallout New Vegas. Fine.
I think Octail would say that. I never got into New Vegas. I got into it where I started playing it for a minute, and I just, for whatever reason, I never got into it. I hear a lot of people saying it's the best. For me, Fallout 3 was my Fallout, because even 4 I didn't put the time into like I would have wanted to, where Fallout 3 I spent a ton of time in.
I've always enjoyed the Fallouts, but I don't know. I'm more of a fantasy guy than a dystopian sci-fi kind of guy, I guess. I love dystopian stuff, but I don't know. I didn't really get into. Like, I hate mechs. Like I really don't like power armor. I'm just not into that kind of thing. I just don't find it fun. It's boring to me. And so Fallout 4 especially, I didn't particularly enjoy because it was fine. Like whatever, I feel like a 5 out of 10. Because the power armor and stuff was just so heavily emphasized. Whereas I really enjoyed playing Fallout 3 in New Vegas, in stealth or being a sciencey guy, or I like the range of what you could do in those games. But I didn't feel that in Fallout 4. But anyway, so yeah, New Vegas was a great game. I did enjoy it. I agree though. Fallout 3 was better for me personally.
Okay, well, and Octo corrected me saying that no, he didn't actually like Vegas. I had forgot. I wasn't sure, but I appreciate him correcting me. because I was like, I wasn't
Okay.
sure if I remembered him talking about it or not. But I just remember hearing a lot about it where I just missed it completely. I was like, I don't care.
Hando says hand over your MK3 in Factorio. You get power armor in Factorio, but it just makes you run faster, man. It's not like suddenly the control scheme doesn't work and you have to control like this. I just hate this control scheme. It's dumb. I hate it. I also hate flying in games, by the way. I don't mind flying as like on a broomstick or something. Or World of Warcraft flying. Fine, you don't even notice it. It's just 3D suddenly. I hate flying in games that you have to think about like yaw and tilt, and I'm just like, this is no longer fun. I'm now working. I don't enjoy that. Okay, the last game on the list, which I think everybody will agree with, is The Witcher 3. Of course, it's just one of the best games of all time.
Is it?
It's just so goddamn good. The storyline is fantastic. The world feels great. It's beautiful. The music is great. I actually was sitting this week, like 3 or 4 days ago, and I was doing some work, and I had my study playlist playing that I've had since my PhD, which I have a bunch of Witcher music in it because it's just a lot of it's so relaxing and ambient and really chills me out.
Okay.
And I was sitting listening to it, and I hit pause because I was trying to join a Zoom call, and I was like, "Why do I still hear the music?" And I realized it's because Kitten was in the door, like one room over. She'd finished work and was started playing The Witcher, and I was listening to The Witcher, and I was like, "This is so good. This is such a good soundtrack that I'm hearing it not only because I'm choosing to listen to it, but because the game was so good. It's also being played within like a couple of meters of me, without me actually. I didn't encourage that. That was standalone, right? Like Kitten did that by her own volition, right?" Anyway, that's the show. I gotta give a big shout to absolutely everybody who joined in to listen, old fans and the new fans. Thank you so much for subscribing and following to us, guys. We really do appreciate it. It gives us a buzz to see that people are still interested in our show after all these years and want to listen in and take part in our community. Because we love hanging out with you guys. We love playing games with you guys. We love talking about games with you guys. And that goes for you as well, Wayne. I thoroughly appreciate you hosting this show every week and having me on so that we can just shoot crap and talk about video games for a couple of hours and drink too much alcohol and have a good time. So, and maybe a little bit too much politics as well. So thank you so much for hosting, sir. It's much appreciated. Thank you all for listening in. Some people will be joining the Discord after the show. If you need details on how to join, shoot anybody in the chat message. Everybody here knows how to do it. Just ask. We'll happily share the how-to.
Yep, it's in our show notes for any of our previous shows as well. It's right up towards the top. Yep. You just see Discord and jump on that.
So thank you very much for listening in. And sir, is there anything else you want to say before the very end?
No, it caught me how quick it went because I was just about to jump on the next one where I was going to talk about standards for internet in the future and things like that. But we are good to go. We'll call it good. Still, a shout out to everyone. We'd love to hear from you at VtWShowX@gmail.com. Specifically, the question Ken asked about if you are getting stimulus of any format from your government, some kind of check back in your pocket, what do you plan to do with it? Is it so just straightforward that you're going to just pay your bills and keep going? Or do you have some special plan that's maybe even geeky or otherwise that you want to do with it? We'd love to know. So email us in at VtWShowX@gmail.com. We'd like to hear it. All right, with that, we are out of here. So everybody have a wonderful week. Stay healthy, stay connected, and stay engaged. And we look forward to seeing you again next week, hopefully with a special guest talking a little more doctory stuff. But all right, with that, we're out of here. Ken, thank you very much.
Thank you. You're listening to ShowX on twitch.tv/VtWShowX. We very much appreciate it. Please do hit subscribe, follow, whatever. I don't know how these things work. You can support us in various ways and take part in the community, and these are the ways in which you can do one or both of those things. You can go to patreon.com/ShowX and donate $1 a month or more in order to keep our show afloat, pay for hardware and software, and not our alcohol. We provide that ourselves. And every penny it goes towards the show, and we appreciate it. So thank you for that. You can follow us on Facebook. So go to facebook.com, search for ShowX, show space X, and you should find us easy peasy. We're the only one there, I believe. So, and you can tell by our icon anyway. Follow us on twitter.com. You can find various accounts for us on Twitter. You can find the main show account, twitter.com/ShowX. You can find Mr. Wayne at twitter.com/docdead, and you can find myself at twitter.com/drkenreed. You can also find us by going to reddit.com/r/showx. Be sure to subscribe, and there you can talk about the show in post if you didn't have a chance to take part in chat. You can also send us an emails to VtWShowX@gmail.com. All of these things help us out. Retweet the show, share us to your friends, like all the things we put out there. We appreciate it because it keeps us active and helps people find us and such, and that's always good. Enjoy your week of isolation. I hope the world smiles upon you guys and none of you catch coronavirus.
All right, with that, we are out of here, everybody. Thank you very much.
Bye. See you next zombie. Good night.